Good afternoon. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Business, Housing, and Zoning Committee for August 6, 2024. I'm Jamal Osman, and I'm the chair of this committee. Before we begin the meeting, I want to offer a friendly reminder that all members, staff, and public at this meeting are broadcast live. To enable greater public participation, this broadcast includes real-time captioning as further method to increase accessibility in our proceeding to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comment to the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarify their comments. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll so we can verify a quorum.
Councilmember Rainville.
Present.
Cashman.
Present.
Jenkins is absent. Chowdhury.
Present.
Vice Chair Ellison.
Here.
Chair Osman.
Present.
There are 5 members present.
Let the record reflect we have a quorum. Today's agenda is before us. Item 7 through 16 are consent agenda items. Item 7 is 9 liquor license approval. Item 8 is liquor license renewal. Item 9 is gambling license renewal for Olives Project. Item 10 is commemorative street name addition to add Bernard Anderson Way to the portion of Russell Avenue North. Item 11 is accepting $85,000 for HOT grant for 38th and Chicago Affordable Housing Trust Housing Project. Item 12 is accepting Met Council Livable Community Grant for 3 projects. Item 13 is authorizing participation agreement with Minnesota Housing Rehab Loan Program. Item 14 is approving rezoning at 1315 University Avenue Southeast. Item 15 is referring to staff the subject matter of ordinance regarding rental pre-eviction notification. Item 16 is setting a public hearing for August 20 to receive a public comment on the 2023 annual performance and evaluation report. Would anyone like to pull any items, or does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, I'll approve on the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Right. Next, we have 5 licensing public hearing. The first is for application for Mothership Pizza Paradise for on-sale liquor license, no live entertainment 10-day sales. I'll welcome Director Amy Lingo to give us a presentation. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Osman and committee members. I am Amy Lingo, Manager of Licenses and Consumer Services. I'm presenting an application from Mothership Pizza Paradise, owned by Mothership Pizza Paradise, LLC. This business is located at 5057 France Avenue South, Ward 13. The applicant requests an on-sale liquor with Sunday sales with no live entertainment license. The interior seating capacity will be 52, and there is currently no outdoor seating. Mothership Pizza Paradise Restaurant will take over the space previously occupied by Rezzo Ristorante. Proposed hours of operation are Tuesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. 277 notices were sent to property owners within 600 feet of the premises, the Fulton Neighborhood Association, the Southwest Minneapolis Business Association, and Councilmember Lene Palmazzano. We received 2 responses from the community that have supported the new license. There are no operating conditions or other issues. The Licenses and Consumer Services Division recommends approval of the on-sale liquor with Sunday sales and no live entertainment. This concludes my presentation. At this time, I will stand for any comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. And now I'm going to proceed to open the public hearing. And our first speaker is the owner, Tommy.
How are we doing?
Hi.
Is that good? Well, hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having us. My wife Carrie and I I guess I didn't prepare a statement, so I'll just make it brief, save everybody a little time. We're excited. We have another restaurant right around the corner on the Edina side of 50th and France. Us being Minneapolis residents are excited to offer some of our hospitality on the good side of France. God forbid anybody lives on the other side. 50 seats, small little kind of Brooklyn-style pizzeria. We'll do slices, sandwiches, salads, full bar, TVs, neighborhoody. We're parents of a couple of high school kids, so we want to make sure that we embrace the community and have families and sports teams and this and that. So think Shakey's Pizza meets the aesthetics of Mr. Paul's Supper Club, and that's what we're going to bring. We're excited about it. Roughly about 30 to 35 jobs created on top of the 100 jobs we have at Mr. Paul's. So,
Thank you for your testimony.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Brian.
Hey there, my name's Brian Arnold. I live 2 blocks away from said restaurant at 5101 Drew Avenue South, and I give full approval. I'm also the block leader for Drew Avenue, and everybody in the block is super excited to have them on board.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Yes.
Is there anyone who would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and call Councilmember Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just first of all, you didn't come prepared with a statement, but you gave a great statement. Excited to hear about the business. I love the ink, by the way, so very cool for folks at home who couldn't see that. Happy to move approval and really want to thank you for doing business in the city of Minneapolis and hope you guys have a lot of success over there. So happy to move approval.
Thank you so much. And I would like to recognize Councilmember Jenkins, who has been joining us in the meeting.
Thank you. And I would comment that I really
Mike.
hopefully the mothership will be as equally as tasty as the food at Mr. Paul's.
Wonderful. On that motion to approve, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Our next public hearing is for Hope Breakfast Bar. And I'll ask Mahmoud Osman from licensing to give us presentation. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Osman, committee members. I am Inspector Mohammed Osman with Licenses and Consumer Services. I'm presenting an application from Hope North Loop Green LLC, doing business as Hope Breakfast Bar, located at 350 North 5th Street, Suite 150 in Ward 3. There is no history of a liquor license at this location. The applicant is requesting an on-sale liquor with Sunday sales and no entertainment. Hope Breakfast Bar will offer a fresh mix of savory and sweet breakfast dishes. Hope is focused on the future of their community and bringing people together for their most important meal of the day. The hours of operations will be Monday to Sunday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. They will have an indoor seating capacity of 171 seats and no outdoor seating at this time. On July 24th, 2024, public hearing notices were sent to property owners within 450 feet of the premise. Notices were also sent to the North Loop Neighborhood Association and the Warehouse District Business Association and Councilmember Rainville. We received 1 letter of support from the North Loop Neighborhood Association and no additional comments from the community. A review of any 311 complaints, 311 calls, police calls show no significant issues concerning the business or issuance of the license. The License and Consumer Services Division recommends approval of an on-sale liquor with Sunday sales and no entertainment. This concludes my presentation. At this time, I will stand for any comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Osman, for your presentation. And now I'm going to proceed to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and call Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you, Chair Osman. I'd like to make the motion to approve this item, please.
With that motion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Our next item is public hearing for Northeast BP for an extended hours license. I'll ask Christina Steester from licensing. I think I got it right.
You did.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Osman and committee members. I am Lead License Inspector Christina Steester from Licenses and Consumer Services. I'm presenting an application from M&R Properties, doing business as Northeast BP, located at 2636 University Avenue Northeast in Ward 1. Currently, they have a gas filling station, food manufacturer, tobacco dealer, and accessory grocery store license. The applicant is requesting an extended hours license. Northeast BP has been operating 24 hours a day since they opened in 2021. Once made aware of an extended hours license needed for this business, they applied for one. Their requested hours of operation will be 24 hours a day. On July 15th, 15 public hearing notices were sent to property owners within 300 feet of the premises. Notices were also sent to the Marshall Terrace Neighborhood Organization, the Northeast Chamber of Minneapolis, and Councilmember Payne's office. We have received one comment from the community, and it was in support of the license. A review of any complaints, 311 calls, and police calls do show that there have been several police calls related to this location in the past several years. MPD has reviewed and signed off on their police safety plan. The Licenses and Consumer Services Division recommends approval of an extended hour license for Northeast BP. This concludes my presentation, and at this time, I will stand for any comments or questions you may have.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm going to proceed to open the public hearing and call Mr. Musa Saad.
Hello, thanks for having us today. Good afternoon, this is Musa Saad, my business partner. My name is Walid Sirhan. We run and operate the Northeast gas station. Been in Minneapolis we took over in 2021. Been great. I work in Minneapolis. I lived in Minneapolis for the last 7 years, and then I work in downtown Minneapolis. We've had great success in Northeast at the gas station. We have a lot of support in the community. We got to know everybody there as well. Would like to go back to 24 hours if possible. That's really pretty much it.
Thank you so much. Would you like to make? That's it. Okay, that's it. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone would like to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and call Councilmember Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am happy to move approval of this item.
Thank you. Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you. I'm wondering if the applicants could come back up again, please. Thank you for coming down today, and we've spoken on the phone, so it's good to meet you in person. Yeah. But I just have to express the concerns from the neighborhood, the broader neighborhood, about the violence that has occurred there, especially the gun violence. And I have talked to Inspector Torberg and understand that you have hired extra security at night, so thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
And I would just encourage you to keep in touch with the police, because it's not your fault at all, but that has become a location when people do these street robberies. They come and use the cash machine, and there has been gun violence there. And I have to note that the Public Works building across the street has bullet holes in it from coming from your station. Again, it's no reflection on you, but it's become a place of violence. So thank you for listening to the police and to our inspections department. Ms. Sheesher, thank you for your hard work on this, but I have to thank you and then acknowledge the concern for the violence that's been there in the past.
Absolutely.
But I'll be voting yes for this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, and thanks for the authorities for working with us too, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion to approve, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Our next item is public hearing for Cavalry Dailies and Subs for Street Cafe license. I'll ask Joseph Olson to give us a presentation. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Olson with License and Consumer Services. Today I'm presenting an application from PS Foods LLC, doing business as Caffrey's Deli and Subs. Caffrey's is located at 3008 Lindale Avenue in Ward 10. The current license at Caffrey's is a restaurant with sidewalk cafe. The applicant is requesting a street cafe. Caffrey's has been operating at this location since 2010. The new street cafe is approximately 192 square feet and will be placed in a parking stall located directly in front of the establishment. Currently, Caffrey's has indoor seating for 20, seating for 8 on the sidewalk cafe, and there will be an additional 13 new seats on the street cafe. There will be no change to Caffrey's hours of operation, which will remain 10:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. On July 23rd, public hearing notices were sent to property owners within 300 feet of the premises. They were also sent to the South Uptown Neighborhood Association, the Lynn Lake Business Association, and Council Member Aisha Chugtai. And we have received one comment from the community in support of this street cafe. We've had no complaints, 311 calls, or any issues with the operating conditions on site. The License and Consumer Services Division recommends approval of a street cafe license for Caffrey's Deli and Subs. This concludes my presentation. I can stand for any comments or questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olson, for your presentation. I'm going to proceed to open the public hearing and call Peter Caffrey. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Pete Caffrey. I am the owner and operator of Caffrey's Deli. I want to thank Joseph. We have been operating since 2004 at 3008 Lindale, so it's our 20th anniversary this year. We are, it's about our third year applying for this license, so I'm super excited to finally be here and have a hearing. We're just looking to bring something a little interesting to Lake and Lindale since nothing seems to ever happen there. So, anyways, we're excited to have a new component to our business, and hope you guys agree.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Is there anyone who would like to speak? See none, I'll close the public hearing and call Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Chair Osman. Wondering if Joseph, if you could come up and just help me understand why it took 3 years to get here. I'm wondering if there's something that we might be aware of. And I'm also happy to move approval of this item today as well.
I can't speak in particular to what went down in years past, but I do know that one component, Lindale in this area, is a county road, so it does require further approval from Hennepin County. So some of the delay or the length of the process was that third layer of review that has to happen at the county level. We would have hoped to have this done sooner this summer, but finally we've got everything in place and Public Works signed off. So we're ready to hit it and get it installed right away.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to eating out in the street on Lindale. Thanks for doing business in Uptown. And yeah, happy to move approval of this today.
Thank you, Councilmember Cashman. Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair Osman. And Mike or Joe, I'm just curious, can you say again how many seats are going to be available outdoors?
13.
13. So are you kind of expanding into the cowboy? You want to come up to the...
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw Joseph under the bus there. It was it used to be $15,000 for the summer to have a street cafe. So, anyways.
Well, yeah, I was just curious. I know the country bar.
Yeah.
Gone now, I think.
Gone for 6 or 7 years. Yeah.
And they had whatever replaced it.
Yeah. So yeah, no, we won't be. We'll be 3 feet from the property from the building line.
So there is a going concern next door to you right now?
I'm sorry.
A business? Is
Yes,
there a
yeah, they
restaurant
just
next
opened
door?
Beckett's. It's a bar and restaurant.
Okay. So I'm just trying to visualize 13 new seats in front of your place. How would
So they redrew the lines.
It's right
on-
across the street from Ward 8, so.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I represent that area as well.
Sure. No, they redrew Lindale, so we have 20 feet out to the first white line, and then they made a 4-foot buffer before the first lane of traffic, so the seats are going to go out rather than left to right. So left to right, 19 feet, 20 feet out into the street.
Into the street?
Correct.
So it'll be like a parklet?
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ellison?
Just was going to make the comment, congratulations on 20 years, because, I know we weren't able to acknowledge that. And so, again, thank you for this, and, happy to support the motion for approval.
Thank you. With Councilmember Cashman's motion to approve, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Our next item is public hearing for Salt and Flour for on-sale liquor, no live entertainment. I'll call Director Amy Lingo. Welcome.
Thank you. Once again, I'm Amy Lingo, Manager for Licensing and Consumer Services, and I am presenting an application from Salt and Flour LLC, DBA as Salt and Flour, located at 350 North 5th Street in Ward 3. The applicant is requesting an on-sale liquor Sunday sales with no live entertainment license. This restaurant has 206 seats indoors and 45 seats on an outdoor patio. They will be offering homemade Italian food experience with alcohol and operating Sunday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., both inside and outside. Ambient music is to be played throughout. On July 16th, 2024, public hearing notices were sent to property owners within 600 feet of the premises. Notices were also sent to the North Loop Neighborhood Association, the Warehouse District Business Association, and council members Cashman and Rainville. We have received one comment from the community in support of this application. A review of any complaints, 311 calls, police calls, and operating conditions shows no significant issues concerning the business or issuance of this license. The Licenses and Consumer Services Division recommends approval of an on-sale liquor license, no live entertainment with Sunday sales. This concludes my presentation. At this time, I'll stand for any comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm going to proceed to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Jeff Bornman, one of the owners of Purpose Restaurants. So I saved you the trouble on the first time because we own Hope and Salt and Flour. So we'll give you this feel once. We're really, really excited to be in the North Loop and an exciting project there in the Heinz project, and excited to expand our Hope Breakfast Bar business. This is our 7th location. So it's nice to be on the Minneapolis side first for our first time. And then Salt and Flour is a brand new curated concept that we're really excited to bring approachable Italian food, both as a sit down and then also for takeout and to go. So it should be a nice addition to the residential building there, hotel, and the office building. So again, we're really, really excited to open up in Minneapolis again.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Seeing no one else to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing and call Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Chair Osmond, and thanks for being here. And I think this North Loop Green project that's opened up and the new businesses that are coming in Ward 3, but really close to the Ward 7 border are really exciting. So just want to thank you for doing business and look forward to trying the Italian food. And I'll move to approve this.
Is there anyone who would like to add a comment? Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you. I'd like to second that. And again, welcome to the 3rd Ward. And we've talked before, but I appreciate your investment and your belief in opening your business here in Minneapolis, and especially the 3rd Ward. So whatever our office can do to help you, never hesitate to pick up the phone and call. Thank you.
All right, great. On that motion to approve, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Our next item is quasi-judicial hearing for an appeal of the decision of the Zoning Board of Adjustment upholding the decision of the zoning administration that the existing and proposed use of the property at 2653 37th Avenue South. I will ask Brad Ellis from the zoning to give us a presentation.
Chair Osman, council members, my name is Christopher Cota. I'm a planner on the zoning administration section. Brad Ellis was originally going to present when I was going to be out of the office, but my situation changed and I'm able to be here before you today.
Welcome. Thank you.
As stated, I am presenting on a appeal of the decision of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, denying an appeal of the decision of the zoning administrator related to the use of the property at 2647/2653 37th Avenue South. Is the document camera up? Thank you. Property is shown here, located at the corner of 37th Avenue South and East 27th Street. It's a one-story commercial industrial building with two tenants, an art studio and Superior Fence and Rail, which is the subject of this appeal here. Beginning in the summer of 2023, the city has received numerous complaints about the operation of Superior Fence and Rail on the property, specifically related to exterior storage of vehicles and materials on the site, as well as unloading and storage of materials within the public right-of-way. Some inspection photos here showing materials stored in a unimproved portion of the north side of the lot, materials stored in the street. And here, a truck being unloaded directly on the street with materials dropped onto the property. They were issued a notice to correct for operating a contractor's yard without a conditional use permit, and directed to work with staff on the conditional use permit process, as well as exploring a variance to the enclosed building requirement, for the exterior storage of materials close to residential properties. The property owner proposed constructing an addition on the north side of the lot to enclose the space where the exterior storage is being done. The zoning administrator reviewed this proposal and determined that even with that, the use would still be considered a contractor's yard and would need a conditional use permit in order to operate there. The property owner appealed the zoning administrator's determination on two main points. The first being that the tenant does not offer contracting or construction services and should not be classified as a contractor. And the second being that if the addition were constructed, there would no longer be exterior storage and it would not be classified as a contractor's yard. The zoning code defines contractors' yards, contractors' offices, as well as warehousing and general distribution uses, which is what the property owner argues that this use should be classified as. And you can see here on the screen those definitions. I won't read them out loud to you. As shown by their website, Superior Fencing and Rail clearly operates as a fencing contractor. They have a page that says the fence contractor checklist every homeowner needs to read. They have a form you can fill out to get a fence to have them install, a quote to have them install a fence for you. They have reviews of themselves as a fence contractor. Information on the fences that they offer. And other things that identify themselves expressly as a contractor. The use of the property goes beyond a general warehousing use as defined in the zoning code. It is very specifically a contracting use as the business offers contracting services. It cannot be classified as a contractor's office, as contractors' offices are not allowed to have any materials delivered to the site or vehicles stored on the site. So between contractor's yard and contractor's office, contractor's yard is really the only use classification in the zoning code that meets the description of what's done here. Even though the zoning code definition of a contractor's yard does mention exterior storage, the zoning administrator reviewed this and determined that even if that were to be enclosed and the exterior storage removed, the functional use of this business would still be as a contractor's yard. The Zoning Board of Adjustment reviewed this at their July 11th meeting and upheld the zoning administrator's determination denying the appeal, which was subsequently appealed, and the reason that we're here today. That's it in my formal presentation. Can answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Excuse me. I'm going to proceed to open the public hearing and will first allow the appellant or appellant representative an opportunity to present. You have 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair Osman, members of the committee. My name is Mark Thiroff, and I represent the property owner. We are here this afternoon because my client wants to build an addition to the building on its property that would entirely encompass the outdoor area that's currently being used for storage. As you may have noticed in the aerial photograph that was shown to you, this property is bound on two sides by residential uses, so it's one of those situations where you've got adjacent, very different uses, and the purpose of building the addition is to eliminate all of the outdoor storage that has gone on up until now. We engaged an architect to prepare plans for the building, and those plans are fully compliant with the zoning ordinance. No variances are necessary, fully compliant in all ways. And we began work on site plan approval when we were told by staff that they had determined that this was a contractor's yard, or would be a contractor's yard, even after the site is fully enclosed and therefore needs a conditional use permit. We think that that's an incorrect reading of the zoning ordinance and therefore commenced this appeal. The argument is really simple, and if I could have the document camera, please. I've got here on this sheet, I don't know if you can see that. You can, great. You will see the definition of contractor's yard says an establishment providing general contracting or building construction services, and which involves outdoor storage of machinery or equipment. There was debate and discussion at the last hearing about whether this tenant's engaged in contracting services. We'll concede that it is. There's lots of arguments to say that it isn't, but we'll concede that for purposes of this appeal, because this ordinance squarely states that the use has to involve outdoor storage of machinery or equipment. There will be no outdoor storage once this addition is built. And there isn't any storage of machinery or equipment at all. The undisputed facts of what the tenant does shows that we're actually, the tenant is a warehousing and storage use. It's undisputed that the tenant takes delivery of bulk fencing materials, it stores and sorts those materials in the building, it loads them onto trailers, and then it delivers those materials to work sites. And you can see the definition of warehousing and storage. It says warehousing and storage uses include uses which are primarily related to the storage, sorting, packaging, or shipping of goods and materials. And that's exactly what our tenant does. That's the only thing our tenant does. Our tenant does not engage or won't engage once we have the addition built in any outdoor storage of any type. Therefore, this cannot be a contractor's yard. There have been some complaints. I see Mr. Layton, the neighbor, is here. I'm sure he's going to speak with you about some activities that have gone on in the street with respect to loading and unloading of the fencing materials. I'd firstly like to state that the photograph you were shown during staff's presentation is of a different business. It's a business that fabricates gutters that's across the street from us. So that photograph of the truck blocking the street has nothing to do with my client. There are other photographs in the meeting packet for today showing a gray forklift and a black truck. That also has nothing to do with our tenant. So I want to caution you on the characterization of what's going on here to begin with. But secondly, and more importantly, if there are problems with the street being blocked and the right-of-way being used in a manner that's violating of ordinances, the solution is to get traffic control involved. It's not a land use issue. It doesn't go to the zoning classification of this property. It goes to whether or not this tenant is blocking the street and shouldn't. And if there's an issue with that, traffic control can control that. The approach staff is taking, where they're trying to rewrite a zoning ordinance to address a traffic issue, would be like saying that a restaurant that has Cisco trucks that pull up to unload is suddenly not a restaurant anymore, but a grocery store or a food storage facility. That's just not how this works. Lastly, I want to caution you about some unintended consequences that could arise if you were to adopt staff's interpretation here. There are very many businesses in the city that store equipment inside of buildings that are not contractors' yards. They're not zoned as contractors' yards. They don't have conditional use permits for contractors' yards. And if you say that this proposed use is a contractor's yard, you will have very many other uses in the city that will suddenly have become contractors' yards as well. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for that for your presentation and testimony. And now I will allow others who have signed up for opportunity to speak. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I see the city clerk bringing.
Hello, council members.
Hi, welcome.
I'm Diane Brady-Layton, and I am a neighbor of this.
I'm sorry, you have 2 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, neighbor of this business. I'm here representing myself, but also 17 other neighbors who have expressed concerns about this business and who support the zoning determination. We also have a letter from the Seward Neighborhood Group in support of the zoning determination. So I'll just tell you a couple stories. But on July 1st, approximately 1 year after making my first complaint about this business, the owner of Superior Fence and Rail, Jay Rain, approached me in my yard. And I think his goal was to find out if I had put a negative review on Google, as he was very concerned about this having a negative impact on his business. He was very apologetic about the negative impact his business was having. And I stressed the safety, environmental, and liability concerns about using the public streets as his contractor yard to bring in huge semis, park them, unload them, use forklifts on the city street, all while the semis are idling. And if you look at the pictures, you'll see these loads are huge, so you can imagine how long those semis are there. They also have started work as early as 4:30 in the morning and woken up neighbors. The owner of the business indicated he was aware of and understood the concerns. And at the previous hearing, the attorney representing the building owner who just spoke stated that the building owner should be able to use his property any way he wishes. And I would just say that's not true of any of us in Minneapolis. Tom and I got a little citation to cut weeds in our alleyway, and we did that. Can I continue?
No, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you so much for your testimony.
So we support the zoning administrator's determination. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Tom Layton from Seward.
Can we turn the camera on? Chair Osman, council members. The livability and safety issues at this site have been persistent or frequent for a year, and that's documented in a number of pieces of correspondence that you've received in your packet. I list in our letters 6 ways that I think this business has been repeatedly violating city codes. Part of the challenge of that is that our competent zoning administration, that unit is only set up to enforce issues on the site, traffic, as the plaintiff or as the party's lawyer said, enforces off the site, but they don't have the same robust enforcement agency. So this has continued for a year. One of the benefits of understanding that this behaves as a contractor's yard, which requires the oversight that comes with a conditional use permit, is that upon applying for a conditional use permit, conditions can be put on that approval that relate to where the business is conducted, how the business is conducted, whether the semis can go up the residential streets, whether the forklifts can run on the streets. So the zoning enforcement staff can become a party to enforcing this, and they have much more wherewithal to do that. The last thing I wanted to say is that I felt the staff's breakdown of the reason why these two uses, neither of them are a perfect fit, but they're recommending that a contractor's yard is a better fit than a contractor's office, was really well reasoned. I encourage you also to look at the definition, the very definition of a conditional use permit, which says it allows the city to place uses in that category because of their unique characteristics that require additional oversight. And this certainly is a business that fits in that category.
Thank you.
Belongs as a conditional use permit. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone who would like to speak? I'll see no one else. I'll close the public hearing and call Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Few questions. Just thank you to the folks who came to testify. Thank you to staff, and thank you to the appellant as well. A few questions that I had as I was listening to presentations is there was a question about whether or not the vehicles that we were shown were actually pertaining to the applicant. Does that matter in what we're considering here, or is there anything? Can staff respond to that at all?
Chair Osmond, Councilmember Ellison. Ultimately, the question before you is not necessarily whether it's appropriate for vehicles to be on the road, but whether the use of the site, both existing and proposed, is properly classified by the zoning administrator as a contractor's yard.
And then with regards to the question of it being a storage facility, it's true that the enclosure is sort of hypothetical because it does not exist right now, correct?
That is correct.
And if the enclosure was to exist, that would sort of change that dynamic. They could come with a different appeal. They could apply for a different, variance or conditional use if and when the enclosure does exist.
It's a bit of an interesting question. I mean, a conditional use technically needs an amended conditional use permit in order to expand. So if the use is a contractor's yard currently were to expand, that requires a conditional use permit. It's possible they could build an addition to the building and still be cited for operating without a conditional use permit, depending on how that business was operating.
And then we're here to sort of either grant or deny this appeal. And in the event of a denial, then at that point, is it classified as a contractor's office? In which case they still cannot store, right? Am I misunderstanding the facts in front of us?
You could give the staff that direction. If you were to just outright deny the appeal and uphold the zoning administrator's determination, then the determination that it is a contractor's yard would stand, and they would be required to get a conditional use permit.
Got it. Well, then, I don't know if my colleagues have further questions. I do think that we should deny this appeal, and so I'm going to move for us to deny this appeal based on the information I've heard, and I'll see if my colleagues have any further questions.
All right, Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Osman. This might be a question for our staff again. If you want to come back up, sir. My question is just kind of understanding materially what happens should we deny the appeal or approve the appeal. Does this make any material difference in terms of pallets being stored on the right of way?
Chair Osman, Councilmember Chowdhury, it probably would. If the appeal were denied, then the determination that this is a contractor's yard operating without a conditional use permit would stand. They would likely start getting fined for operating without their conditional use permit. If you were to grant the appeal and agree with the appellant's statement that this is general warehousing, they still would not be able to have exterior storage. So either of those, in either case, they should not be storing materials outdoors, but they have done so regularly throughout the last year.
Okay, thank you. That was a really helpful clarification.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
If I might interject just briefly, I think one of the things that the staff report addresses, I think, very well on the last, I guess it would be the last 5 findings on page 4, is that the role of the zoning administrator in our code is to make determinations many times when a use doesn't quite fit exactly within one of a certain number of choices, as in this case, there's been 3 use categories that have been bandied about. And so there is the ability, and there's some speculative question about what if there was no outdoor storage. Nonetheless, what the zoning administrator is charged with doing is looking at the circumstances and determining which use most closely fits the circumstances at hand. And so I wanted to stress that although there might be some speculative argument with regards to the definition of outdoor storage or whether outdoor storage is occurring, I think if you look at the 3 use categories that are being bandied about here, the zoning administrator would say that the circumstances most closely place this use within the category that was determined. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Cash? Oh.
No, it was really my question was about contractor's yards definition does not include materials. So that's not, the issue as it relates to the contractor's yard definition. That's the issue as it relates to the warehousing definition.
Chair Osmond, Councilmember Cashman, contractors' yards do allow for exterior storage, but there is a distance requirement from adjacent residential uses, which this area of the property would not be in compliance with. So they would not be allowed to have exterior storage here either way.
Okay.
Thank you. See no one else. The motion to deny the appeal. Oh, Councilmember.
I was just going to make some comments. So helpful to know this should not be happening in the right of way, irregardless of this decision. But what it seems like to me is like there is a necessity for outdoor storage because of previous use. And since that is the current use, I just wanted to state that it makes sense for the zoning administrator to make this determination well documented, and I will be supporting Councilmember Ellison's motion.
Thank you. The motion to deny the appeal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Now, next item is 17, so I'm actually gonna skip that because I see Minneapolis Public Housing has been patiently waiting for us, so we're gonna put their item first and get their quarterly report. I see Drew and Sorsame. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Osmond, council members, city staff. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. We're here today to kind of give you an overview of our quarter 2 check-in. Our presentation, we will encompass MPHA capital backlog, 2023 agency accomplishments, strategic plan, 2024 quarter 2 strategic plan updates. And I do apologize, I was a bit tired, so I didn't introduce myself. My name is Abdul Sami. I'm the Executive Director and CEO of the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority. And with me today are my colleagues, Rachel Armberg, who's our Assistant Director for Policy and Strategic Initiatives, and Drew Halloran at the back, who's our Assistant Director of Administration, Communications, and Strategic Partnerships. And we are glad here to be in front of you to give you an overview of the agency's activities for this quarter. I will start off with something, a familiar theme that most of you are aware of, which is Minneapolis Public Housing Authority serves around 26,000 people on any given day, around 5% of the city's population. We are a key city infrastructure, and one of the biggest challenges we face is the capital backlog. We have around 6,000 units located in 42 high-rise buildings, 736 scattered site single-family homes, 184 row house units in Glendale, and a 16-unit townhome development in South Minneapolis. 40 of our 42 high-rises were built in the 1960s and early 70s. The age range of our single-family homes is from 1 year old. I mean, we will update this because we completed our 84 units development. So from 1 year to 100 years old. And a special note around Glendale in Prospect Park, which celebrated its 70th anniversary last year. We project that our capital backlog, due to the lack of investment in public housing over the last couple of decades, is approximately $229 million. And this means this is the money that we need just to keep what we have. So not adding any new additions or any great improvements, just to keep what we have, we need around $229 million. And if it's left unaddressed, this number is likely to surpass $380 million over the next 20 years. And if we get to that kind of stage, it means we will start losing units and not serving the population that we currently serve. Historically, HUD has only provided the agency around 10 cents for every 10% of the actual need, or around 10 cents for every dollar that we need. And recent historic inflation rates and construction market has made addressing capital needs more costly and challenging. So this is the biggest challenge that we face as an agency. However, while it's daunting, it's not an issue that we should be able to overcome with time. And in 2023, we've had a number of accomplishments due to the partnerships that we have with the city, the county, the state, and our federal delegation. In 2023, we got a $5 million capital grant from the legislature to repair our deeply affordable family homes. We also scored 98.5% on a 100 scale for the physical inspections that HUD does annually, which was an all-time agency high, and we're very proud of that. MPHA has been and continues to be a high-performing agency. We also gained $4 million in new funding from the City of Minneapolis and Hennepin County to expand the Stable Home, Stable Schools program. We gained $1.3 million from the Minnesota Housing Shops program to repair MPHA's deeply affordable family homes. We also got $5 million a year through the City of Minneapolis Housing Levy to support the agency's preservation and production work. And we want to thank the mayor and his office and the City Council for their support in enacting this historic investment. We also celebrated the grand opening of 84 new 2- and 3-bedroom deeply affordable family homes across 16 sites in the City of Minneapolis. We're very proud of that. We also helped around 450 Minneapolis public housing residents and families receive $800,000 in rental relief through Hennepin County's emergency assistance funds. I also want to acknowledge that the agency has completed the installation of fire suppression in every single one of our units across the 42 high-rises. This was a goal that when I came in 2020, we wanted to achieve, and through the partnerships with the city and other jurisdictions, we are proud to have completed that a year in advance. So proud of that. And now let me go to the strategic plan. Our strategic plan, this is the second year of implementation of our plan. We have 4 main priorities. Our top priority is the people that we serve. We want to be a people-centric agency. Second top priority is preservation. We are key city infrastructure. Again, we take care of 5% of the city's population, 30% AMI and below, the most valuable members of our city we take care of. And the third item is production. We know we can't get out of the affordable housing crisis without adding new units, so production is a very important priority. And we know we can't achieve our goals without partnerships with our city, with our county, and with other stakeholders. So those are the 4 priorities. And from the 4 priorities comes our 6 main goals for the next 5 years. And goal number 1 is to provide and preserve deeply affordable, high-quality housing for high-rise residents. We talked about our 42 high-rises. These are actual systems that have around 6,000 residents. They are systems that are top priority for our residents, and we want to make sure that we maintain those high-rises, and we also add wherever we can to them. The second priority is to build new and expand partnerships with federal, state, local government, in addition to philanthropic entities to support MPHA's work and to achieve the agency's goals of reducing our waiting list. And that's common sense, and that's why we're here in front of you today, and we want to build partnerships. The third goal is to provide and preserve deeply affordable, high-quality family housing. Goal number 1 talks about our high-rises. Goal number 3 is our family housing, and this is actually the most sought after program in our portfolio, families in need of housing. Goal number 4 is to increase the supply of deeply affordable housing by at least 150 units per year. So the first goal, number 1, and goal number 3 talk about preservation. This goal is about production, adding new units where we can, and we want to do this, and we intend to do this through partnerships with developers across our region to add more units, especially through our project-based vouchers. Goal number 5 is to position MPHA as an employer of choice. We know we can't do our work without talented staff, and we want to make sure that we recruit and attract talent and make sure that MPHA is a place that people want to work. And the final goal is to continuously improve agency performance to retain our MTW status. MTW is an acronym that HUD has, which is moving to work status and highest HUD performance ratings. As I mentioned earlier, we are a high-performing agency. We want to maintain being a high-performing agency. And that status, MTW, does not mean we want to move everybody to work, even though we would like all of our residents to be gainfully employed. It means actually it gives us a status to be very flexible with the funding that we get in order for us to do innovative programs. Those are the goals and the priorities. I think all of you should be familiar with them. Any questions around this? Okay, seeing none. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it over to Rachel to cover the rest of the presentation. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Each quarter, MPHA provides a report of the activities that have happened as they relate to the strategic plan implementation. We provide this to our Board of Commissioners, and we'll give you a high-level overview today as well. In terms of our first goal, to preserve and provide deeply affordable, high-quality housing for our high-rise residents. These residents are primarily elderly and/or disabled and are in the 42 high-rises across the city. One of our action plans here is to utilize all of our funding, both MTW funds as well as capital funds, to address the high priority needs in the high rises. We took 3 major activities this quarter, which were from the dates of April 1st to June 31st. One is that we provided an application for the Resident Assistance Demonstration Program, or RAD, for 828 and 809 Springs. HUD reviewed this application and returned back to us a commitment to enter into a housing assistance payment, or a CHAP, which means they'd be subsidizing the units for those housings moving forward. We received this in early June, and now we can begin the next steps to get that project formalized and some final design items for resident review. In addition, this quarter, the agency completed the fire suppression installation at all the remaining high rises. And they also worked to do security camera upgrades to address resident safety concerns at the properties. MPHA continues to invest in other high priority work, including window and roof installation and upgrades, building systems replacements, making facade restorations, and modernizing our elevators. MPHA was awarded $1.35 million in publicly owned housing program general obligation funds, better known as POP-GO bonds, by Minnesota Housing to replace aging electrical components at the 630 Cedar Avenue high-rise specifically. For action item 1.4.0, support and amplify resident advocacy initiatives through coordination of communication agendas. Starting in June, MPHA worked really closely with the Minneapolis High-Rise Representative Council, better known as MHRC, as they hosted in-person community elections for the first time since the pandemic. Together, MPHA staff and resident leaders discussed upcoming community engagement opportunities and looking for ways to recruit new resident leaders to make sure that their needs are being met, and we're working collaboratively to provide quality communities within our high-rises. Next, I'd like to highlight some of the items that we've achieved that align with Goal 2, which is to build new and expand partnerships to provide better housing to MPHA residents as well as those on the wait list. One of these items was to seek opportunities to secure stable, consistent funding from every level of government. MPHA's Board of Commissioners reviewed and approved our proposed levy budget for 2025. And in late July, the budget was scheduled to go between the Board of Estimate and Taxation, who would then recommend the City Council for ongoing levy needs for the agency. In 2.2.0, we wanted to build awareness of MPHA's work and importance of deeply affordable housing and building sustainable and vibrant communities. MPHA welcomed the U.S. Department of the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, to tour the agency's family expansion projects and participate in a discussion about the policies and investments Minneapolis is making in affordable housing development. Yellen was very excited to see these things in action and have some lessons learned to be able to help and develop a national model. For 2.3.2, identify needs and communicate resources available for residents and participants that MPHA secures through partnership networks. Residents participated in a listening session to generate ideas on their own to increase community health through a grant that we received called Fearless. This is some guided facilitation activities for them to imagine how health and life could be better and improved in the high-rises specifically, and collaborate on how we can achieve them together. This work involves members from the city's health department as well as some funding partners from Medica and UCare that help guide this work as well. For goal number 3, provide and preserve deeply affordable, high-quality family housing. For MPHA, this family housing is often the scattered sites in single-family homes, duplexes, and those new sixplexes as well that are scattered across the city. We want to do so by using best practices. And MPHA worked closely to host the Child Trends research group that's contracted through HUD to investigate best practices for child care services and subsidized housing. MPHA has 2 townhome developments within our portfolio, one that is co-located with these kinds of early childhood support on sites, and one that's not. So it'll give us some great comparative data to see those child trend outcomes and help us make data-informed decisions moving forward of what's best for MPHA residents in the larger community. In 3.1.0, MPHA, in partnership with other entities, finalized and implemented an approach for stabilizing existing units located in the Heritage Park area. The agency has recently worked on a memorandum of agreements to be executed to MPHA and the owner of Heritage Park to establish both a short-term plan with long-term options to stabilize the operations there. MPHA and the owner have begun reaching out to government partners to request assistance in implementation of this plan to stabilize the property. In 3.2.2, with other levels of government and foundations, we look to identify and capture additional revenue to address capital needs backlog across the entire inventory. In March, there was efforts to utilize $10 million secured from the state and local funding in 2024. This work includes exterior enveloping of buildings and also deep turns in nearly 125 homes. So that's some upgrade and remodels of bathrooms and kitchens for better quality of life. Goal 4, increase supply of deeply affordable housing by at least 150 units per year. This quarter, we successfully leased up and prepared to manage 84 new scattered site units. So the family housing expansion project reached 100% occupancy. And in May, this project received the 2024 Award of Excellence from the National Association of Local Housing Finance Agencies. In addition, it was also recognized as the top project of 2023 by Finance and Commerce and became a finalist of the 2024 Urban Land Institute America's Award of Excellence. Action 4.3.0, continue and broaden the use of federal project-based vouchers, or PBVs, to offer subsidies for increasing deeply affordable housing opportunities across the city. So this work helps new developers get and secure the funding that they need and to make sure that they're providing affordable units in all the new developments. So this quarter specifically, MPHA celebrated the groundbreaking of Agate's new housing project, which will include 22 units supported by these types of PBVs. There are nesting apartments, which includes 40 PBV units, and another 36 new awards were issued through our RFP process. As part of being a people-centric agency, in Goal 5, we want to position MPHA as an employer of choice. And MPHA has done an audit of our HR policies and practices to ensure alignment with DEI strategies. MPHA staff have completed their annual Safety Day training for all agency staff. That included DEI trainings, and it laid the foundation for several follow-up sessions that reviewed identity and intersectionality, unpacking bias, inclusive leadership training, and cultural humility training. And finally, our last goal, Goal 6, is to continuously improve organizational performance to make sure we're able to retain our MTW status. This status is very special and unique to MPHA, and we're one of 39 agencies across the country that have this ability and keep our highest HUD performance rating. So in MPHA's 2023 MTW reports, we received approval from the HUD offices, which was fantastic timing because we're beginning to head into our 2025 planning components that includes community engagement events throughout this summer as well as into the fall. A little delayed on HUD's kind of terms, but MPHA did receive our compliance documents of the 5 requirements that we're held to, and in all of them, we exceeded the criteria laid out by HUD. And lastly, 6.4.6, we implemented a content management system across across MPHA. Staff continued to train as the pilot to go paperless expands. So we're trying to move our operations into just kind of modern 2024 practices and move away from some of the norms that had prided those paper practices. So we're doing so sustainably to make sure we provide a better customer experience, both internally to our clients as well as externally to residents and community partners. So that's my review of this quarter's achievements in quarter 2.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Does any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Osman. Not necessarily any questions right off the top. I'll end with one, but I did want to just say thank you so much for coming to our committee and presenting. This is a very valuable presentation for all of us to hear, because over time we hear about these projects, whether it's through this committee, in community. I know through intergovernmental relations, we've talked a lot about investment to Wadog apartments over the years. So just thank you for coming and presenting and sharing this with us. I wanted to just shout out how happy I am, and I know the community is, as it's been a priority to get fire suppression done. So thank you for that work. I had an opportunity to visit one of the modular multiplexes in my ward with you, Mr. Warsami, and our Congresswoman, and that was just really wonderful to see, and to see that type of housing available for families that are experiencing homelessness and having new neighbors in the area. I will say I was not surprised that Secretary Yellen came to learn more about it, because I was just astonished when we did the walkthrough and learned about all of the puzzle pieces that you and your team had to put together over the COVID-19 pandemic to make this possible. And I hope with her coming, the federal government sees that this is more investment that we want to see across the nation, but more in the city of Minneapolis, because we need it. And I'll also just commend you on sharing a little bit about wanting to make MPHA an employer of choice. We know this work only continues across generations if we have good public sector employees that want to work for MPHA. I had never heard about cultural humility training, and I was rather impressed by that, especially knowing the diversity of communities that we have in public housing. So thank you for sharing that. And I'll note to you, I know you send out a newsletter out to us and other elected officials. I do read them, and so it was nice to kind of hear you talk through some of the things that you covered here. And I want to, in the future, I want to know how the Fearless program works, and then the data that you're going to collect about how families and children will be impacted. I love that you're doing this people-centered focus, and so more of those stories that you can share out to us to hear about how those things are going. Would love to see that. And then my question that I'll close with is, one of your goals is to partner with local government, and just wanted to ask what's on the horizon for partnership with the city of Minneapolis.
Thank you, Chair Osman, Councilmember Chowdhury, thank you for your comments. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate all of your support. I think every single member of this committee is a supporter of public housing and MPHA, so thank you very much. Thank you for your kind comments, and thank you for visiting with us and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar to our family housing expansion site. We will continue organically develop the partnership with the city of Minneapolis. I think the number one priority for us was the levy, and now we've enacted that. And we do appreciate the fact that you've invited us to come here, and we want to do this quarterly update on a regular basis. Look out for our monthly performance report that will tell you everything about the agency. So we'll email that to every single council member and members of the BET and the mayor's office as well. So we want to continue developing this partnership, and we want to also make sure that, at the center of this partnership is our residents. That we always make sure that we take care of our residents. We have elderly individuals on a single income to families that want to, own their own homes. So, we have that gamut of the population of the city of Minneapolis, and we are a key city infrastructure. And I've always said that we want to be seen as people see the parks. without MPHA, you can't house the people that we house. So I think this partnership is one that we want to continue to foster and develop. And I also want to shout out to CPED. I know Director Eric Hansen is here, and the partnership that we have with them. A lot of the projects that we've done could not have been completed without the city staff support. So thank you to them as well.
All right. Well, my comments, thank you so much for coming and giving us that presentation. We really need to hear the good work that MPHA is doing. I know Dr. Osame and his team faced many challenges, but now the good news is coming, which is, we're seeing this new development, new housing, or we're seeing this replacement and renewing the old buildings that we have. And, we mentioned that the 5% of 26,000 people that you housed are the most important people in my community. And it's really wonderful. And any way you can communicate with us, that monthly information or ways that we can be very creative. We never know who's going to be in the White House, to be honest with you. These things do challenge, but we also have to have our resident back, because this is our resident, this is our constituent that that needs us the most. And as a city leaders, we want to be very creative and working the great work you're doing and continue to encouraging you and creating more units. I'm super excited with that comments that just construction just started, and it's really excited to see that, and I can't wait for the opening. So thank you again, and I'll call Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you. I know we have pressing issues, so I don't want to take up any time, but if someone could contact me, I'm interested in learning more about the CHAP program, the one you have at the Spring Street. So again, we're time sensitive here, so if maybe someone could call, and I'd love to learn more about that. Thank you.
We'll do, Councilmember. Thank you.
See no one else. Thank you so much again for that presentation, and I'll direct the city clerk to file that presentation. Next item is ordinance amending Title 12, Chapter 244, Article of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinance relating to the Housing Maintenance Code, adding provision related to the mandatory disclosure of renters' rights information. This item was continued from July 23rd. Biz Committee, we have already had this staff presentation and public hearing. Some of my colleagues will be bringing amendments to the ordinance, so I will first move approval for the ordinance and ask for a second.
Second.
And now, Allison will offer 3 amendments. They can be voted on or separate in a package. Councilmember Allison.
Thank you. I have 3 motions here. They're in front of you. They're to address some of the issues. We heard issues around, a lot of this information exists already. We've heard issues around timing, and so, or concerns about these things within the ordinance. And so I think that the ordinance is well put together. I think that the ordinance doesn't need a ton of modification, but that's why we have public hearings, so that we can hear from folks and make changes as needed. And so the first motion that I wanted to make is in Section 8 around disclosures before signing lease, 8C. And instead of putting a list of violations of the housing code that contributed to the tier status of the property, we put information regarding. That way, folks don't have to provide an enumerated list in some way. They can point to the information, whether that's a link, whether that's something else, and we think it gets at we still think it gets at the intention of the original purpose of 8C. And so I'll go ahead and move that for approval.
We're going to take it separately. Are there any question for motion by Councilmember Osman? First motion? Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you. So I'm curious here. So we have this one sheet from Ellison with under Section 8, which lists A, B, C, D, E, but then we also have another motion by Chowdhury which lists A.
We're not there yet.
So this motion is for 8C. Chowdhury's motion is to amend 8A.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair Ellison. Chair Osman. And I guess the question is for the motioner. I'm not clear or convinced how this helps. I mean,
Well, I want to make sure you have the right motion in front of you. That is
the one that says, instead of a list, provide
information regarding. Yeah, you're welcome.
My understanding through the chair, Councilmember Jenkins, good question, is honestly it's to make it easier for the property owner, landlord to disseminate this information. So it's not a list, it's rather information. And Councilmember Wansley, in communication with our Regulatory Services Department, the Regulatory Services Department is already developing a dashboard that will basically put together this information that would go hand in hand with allowing property owners to access this information, to give out information to community members. So the list language was a little bit more prescriptive, and this allows it to be more, create more room for the landlord to give out that information to tenants.
Yeah, I would just add on that to say that it eliminates duplication and reduces administrative burden. I thought we heard a lot about that administrative burden during testimony.
Administrative for our staff or
for the landlords,
property owners?
Yeah, for property owners.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, my first thought was that this was not helpful, but after talking to the staff, the information is just a public information that will be available to anyone.
It's already available.
Which is why it's better to have I'm not understanding the concern. We're eliminating a list and putting information regarding. It's not semantic, right? We're kind of, from what I'm hearing, the complaint you have is being addressed by this information.
I didn't have a complaint. I just asked for clarification.
No, fair. Sorry, I thought, yeah.
Wonderful. All right, on that first motion of Councilmember Allison, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and that motion carries. Now, Councilmember Allison, second moment.
This would be amending item 9 with disclosures after signing, and just add some additional language to the existing language. So I'll read it. The owner of any dwelling which is required to be licensed by this chapter shall provide information on the rights of renters in a manner approved by the Director of Regulatory Services to all tenants within 90 days of the start of the lease. That's the part that's added, the within 90 days of the start of the lease. Such information shall include, and then it lists the stuff that was already previously there. And I think that this just allows for some room to be had about, when that information gets delivered, so that, the effect of the ordinance isn't instantaneous if they don't have this information before their tenants. And so, so it gives a little bit of, again, one of those things that just gives a little bit of room to property owners to properly and reasonably disseminate this information.
Councilmember Rainville. Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair Osmond. So your amendment provides 90 days to gather this information, but is staff going to compile federal, state law, and city ordinance, or will the landlord, property owner, property manager have to go and compile all of this data?
Staff's available to answer questions.
Because one of my concerns is that landlord A might have some information that landlord B doesn't have. I mean, if the information is to be disseminated, it should be equally the same information that all tenants in Minneapolis receive. And somebody has to oversee that to make sure that that happens.
Thank you so much for that question, Chair Osmond, council members. I'm Jessica Stone. I'm the manager of the alternative enforcement team that currently enforces all the renter protection ordinances. We also do a few different things like the pre-eviction filing notice and things like that, where we, similar to this, ask for a notice or a pre-done set of information to be given to renters. And so our intent is to make sure, kind of what you said, Councilmember Jenkins, everyone gets the same information at the same time, that we are able to provide it online, so through a dashboard, maybe through links through the federal, state, landlords and property owner and tenants' responsibilities, booklet, things like that we've already been providing. But now this is in a centralized space. We're still working on implementation, but we want it to be consistent. So we will be looking at putting stuff online, trying to create documentation so all property owners have access to that, and so they can plug and play as they see, as they need to do for each of their properties. But changing some of the language to a little bit more broader information versus a list allows us to do that easier than having like a long list. If you're looking at your tier status, for example, if you go online right now, you can see a dashboard that has your tier, what contributed to it, the points, things like that. And so now we're centralizing that information into this and formalizing it a little bit more.
So theoretically, then it would make it easier for tenants to access this information as well.
Correct.
But the burden is on the landlord to make sure that they get it.
On the property owner, yep.
It feels a little mommy state-ish to me that we are prescribing this information that adult tenants can access. We're making the property owner access it and then provide it to the tenant. Yeah.
I can respond to that if you want.
Please.
I think letting people know what their rights are, if this is an administrative burden to the landlord, what kind of burden do you think it is on the tenant, right? And if tenants don't have the ability to know what their rights are, then I guess you support us, I think that it is not uncommon for people to be told what their rights are, especially when they're by the people who have the most proximity to know what those rights are. I don't think that that's ridiculous. For decades, people had Miranda rights. Is that mommy state? People knowing what their rights are when they're being arrested, is that mommy state government, as you put it? No. That's people having a right to what their rights are. Now, Supreme Court overrode that. People don't get to know what their Miranda rights anymore. I guess that would make you satisfied. But I think that it is not ridiculous for people to be told what their rights are, and to be told within a framework that is not overly burdensome. Tenants have a right to know what their rights are, and if there is a situation in which it is advantageous for landlords, for tenants not to know what their rights are, we're trying to make sure that there is no gap there. We're trying to make sure that you have access to these rights, you know what your tenants' rights are, they know what they are, so we're eliminating the possibility for miscommunication, for the ability for folks to not get the information that they need. We've got a lot of things like, for instance, sometimes folks don't comply with the law because they themselves don't know what it is. This is eliminating that and closing that gap. And it's not only saying that the landlords have to know what the rights of the tenants are, but that since they have that information, they can go ahead and share it with their consumers, with their tenants. I don't understand how we're getting into language like mommy state and all this other stuff. That seems a little bit ridiculous to me.
So there's a amendment here to tell people how to recycle garbage.
That's telling people.
It's literally saying the landlord has to explain how to recycle the garbage.
So now we're against education on how to use city
No,
resources?
we're not against that. That's information that everybody has access to. The city sends out a statement to residents. This is how you recycle garbage. This is how you compost. So this feels redundant. The information is already available. But
If you-
instead of putting the responsibility on the tenant to go learn what their rights are, we're saying that the property owner has the responsibility to do that.
You're saying that like there's an issue, and I just don't see the issue.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Chowdhury. Before you go, I would like to make a comment. I think I understand where everyone is coming from. It's very important to, for individuals to have the rights. There are very important protected federal law that everyone should have access to. VAWA is one of them. I think HUD, which MPHA just gave us presentation, are required to meet some of these policies, some of this law, federal law, that protects individuals. Those are very, very important. And I think everyone should have access, and every landlord should be able to provide the individual rights and what they have access to. That's one thing. Another thing is that it's also important to build good relationship with the landlords and private management, and not put any confusing language or anything like that, but also to find a way to work with them to make policies that they understand, that they work our staff. And also, I really care more about the enforcement. We have majority of our policies already in the books. I would like to see more staff that are enforcing the policies and increasing the city staff to make sure the small individual of landlords that are violating people's rights are held accountable. So just want to make that comment, and now I'll call Councilmember Chowdhury. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair Osmond, and I'll just say, Councilmember Jenkins, if I may, through the chair, I hear your contention, and I get where you're coming from. I will say, up here, I think we can, in a committee, do our committee work and say that we disagree, because I'll be really clear with you. I disagree. I do not think that tenants have the access necessary to know what rights they're entitled to, or understand the type of lease that they're coming into and the type of property that they're coming into in the city of Minneapolis. It's no secret that renters and tenants in the city of Minneapolis are more likely working people, are people who might not have English as their first language, might be younger, might come from a vulnerable community. And if we're going to say that landlords are housing providers, then there is an obligation to provide the people that you are serving and also getting a profit and benefit from, that they understand the lease that they're coming into and what tools are available to them. And I'll just say, like, so many people in the city of Minneapolis, they don't know that they can go onto the city website and look up information. So many people in the city of Minneapolis don't know that they can call 311 and complain. So many people in the city of Minneapolis don't know who their council member is, which is the most local and easiest to access person. And so if the place where a resident in our city is going to get all of the information before entering into a multiple thousands of dollars contract is within the beginning of that contract, I think that is really valuable and useful, and it walks them through and potentially creates a better ecosystem for tenancy within our city. And I think, like, I'm thinking about the worst outcome of situations where we don't have mandatory disclosure. It leads to someone into being stuck within a lease that they didn't expect, maybe forcing them into a position where they will need to break it, or may lead to eviction. And these are these bad outcomes that we're trying to avoid. And at the same time, we're trying to make sure that the tenants in our city have a balance in what they're equipped with, so they can make smart decisions when it comes to their finances and housing. And I don't think currently in the city of Minneapolis we are meeting that level. And I really appreciate Councilmember Wansley and other council members that are working on making this a better ordinance so we can facilitate a good relationship between the housing provider, the landlord, and the tenant, and our city staff for being forward-thinking about how we can do this, how we can facilitate renting for a renter-majority city in our city of Minneapolis. And so that's why I'll just say with you why I disagree, because I think your main point is that the accessibility already exists, and I do not believe that accessibility exists at the level it should.
Councilmember Ellison and then Councilmember Jenkins.
I'll put my tag down.
Thank you. Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you. The majority of these motions, I think the intention is to help improve the underlying motion, and I think they do to a certain extent. I mean, we have a department that is charged with enforcing and overseeing tenants' rights. So this is not something new. We have been helping tenants. We fund the legal rights organization to help tenants enforce their rights. I disagree that every tenant in the city of a majority city, 51% of our city are renters. They're not all immigrants and low-income people that can't access the internet. There's a wide variety of diverse people who are renting apartments in our city. But that's it. I just wanted to express my concern about the underlying motion.
All right, thank you. On the motion for Councilmember Osmond, motion number 2, I'm sorry, Councilmember Ellison. For motion number 2, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Now we are on motion number 3 by Ellison. Would you like to speak about it?
This is just changing the effective date of the ordinance. And so it shall be March 1 of 2025.
See no one else. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Now, Cashman will offer one amendment. Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Chair Osman. So I'm bringing forward a motion to include language in 8 before signing lease, and it's adding section E, an overview of how garbage recycling and organics recycling are managed at the property, pursuant to Chapter 225 of Article 6, recycling of buildings having 2 or more dwelling units. So I'm bringing forward this amendment as part of our efforts on this body to improve solid waste and recycling compliance in Minneapolis, especially for renters who live in multifamily units. And this amendment itself was proposed by Public Works staff. It was actually brought forward by staff who are working really hard to ensure compliance with our law on the books that recycling is required by all housing providers. However, enforcement of that law is very difficult. And so this is a preventative way to ensure that renters have information that recycling is required at every building and how to access it, how to use it on the front end. And so including this language in the ordinance seeks to do 2 things. 1, ensure renters have information about where and how recycling is provided at their house before they sign a lease. And 2, to reiterate to landlords or housing providers that it is a requirement that they offer recycling to tenants and provide that written information upon signing the lease. So this will help renters make informed decisions about their housing. And it also will help with a really preventative step on enforcement of our recycling ordinance.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to comment or have a question? Seeing none, with Councilmember Cashman's motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries. And now we are on the final motion by Councilmember Chowdhury. Or she is. 2 motions. First motion, Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, Councilmember Osman. So the first motion is on Section 8A, and it is to include contact information of property owner and the operator of the property, including an address where the property owner can accept service of process. And so this addition is really to add if there's a property management company that needs to be included. There are some leases that'll have the property owner and maybe not the property management company or vice versa. It's really to ensure that all tenants have equal access to this information. In my statements last week, I kind of indicated how I had to hunt for property owner information to resolve major issues and a lease that I had at a property. And I'll also just take the opportunity to note that there was some concerns that were brought up in our last meeting about the personal information of property owners. This does not have to be identifying information. That's not the intent of this. It can be a way to get in contact, whether it's an email, whatever the property owner, property management company feels comfortable with, and also providing an address of service allows for the tenant to reach out in one manner or fashion, should it require mail, with this addition. So I will move this for approval.
Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Chair Osman. I was wondering, Councilmember Chowdhury, about including an address where they can accept service of process. I'm not really sure what that language means.
Yeah, I can, so it could be a place where you can send a letter, so like a PO box or something, if you need to send a message to your landlord, property owner, that type of thing, anything that requires mailing.
And is this, this requirement already somewhere else in city code? It seems like something that we as in renters, because I am also, have been a renter my entire life.
Yeah, well, Councilmember Cashman, I don't have city code memorized, but if there is staff that does have the answer to that question, I'd be more than welcome if the chair would invite them up.
Mr. Chair.
Answer.
Yes.
Through the chair, if I might address at least one aspect of this amendment, which I haven't had much time to look at. The terminology saying where the property owner can accept service of process, that is a specific legal, that essentially is a court action or something that would be governed by the Minnesota Rules of Civil Procedure. They already exist in terms of how service of process for a lawsuit is effectuated. If it's the council member's intention simply that some address or PO box be provided in which a letter or communication can be sent, I think that's a different matter, and I might suggest that the committee consider amending, taking out the term service of process and instead using some terms such as can accept communication.
May I, Chair? I think it is also my understanding in conversation with Councilmember Wansley's office is it is also so the tenant can engage in legal proceedings with the property owner. And I would feel apprehensive to change the language up here on the dais on this one.
Through the chair, I can understand that the way it was phrased was that was not one of the purposes, but if that is, certainly it can be looked at. I would just say my office hasn't really had time to review this in any depth.
Well, Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Chair Osman. I I'm supportive of the sentiment behind this, but I'm going to be voting no on the amendment. And if there's a changed amendment that comes forward, maybe at full council, we could revisit it.
My understanding is that the city attorney suggests that the private owner can accept communications instead of services of process. Am I reading right?
Through the chair, that was my suggestion, just hearing the description of the purpose of the amendment. It sounds like actually the purpose may be intended to be more broad and to actually encompass legal service of process. I'm just saying that the Minnesota Rules of Civil Procedure spell out how service of process is effectuated. I don't think we can change or broaden how service of process, that formal initiation of a lawsuit, how that is instituted within a city ordinance. I think that is a matter for the courts and the civil rules to dictate. So again, this is just a matter that I haven't had any discussions on. Mr. Jensen from my office has been the primary attorney on this matter, and I haven't been really aware of these amendments beforehand, and I was just responding to what it sounded like was a different purpose for this amendment.
Councilmember Chowdhury?
Yes. Chair Osmond, I would just like to note for the public record, both of these motions have been discussed with a city attorney, and I just wanted to clarify that. For this motion, are we able, procedurally, are we able to forward without recommendation?
City Clerk?
Or forward to it?
Mr. Chair, the body can't forward they're forwarding to the council an ordinance that can be amended or not. So in order to consider this amendment, either the body needs to incorporate it today, or the motion, the author could retract it and bring it back at council. Either one of those is fine, but we can't send forward one amendment kind of separately without recommendation. It either needs to be incorporated into the ordinance or not.
I would be willing, Chair, to just retract this motion for today and then plan to bring it to full council after further discussion.
Thank you. That motion has been withdrawn. And now we're going to move to the second motion.
Yes, okay. So the second motion to amend section 244200 is basically to come in compliance with current state laws around language to notice termination of lease. So instead of 30 days, it is the time of notice must be as long as the interval between the time of rent is due or 3 months, whichever is less. I believe that there is an email from our city attorneys kind of discussing language that exists within the state. So this is to line it up. This has been vetted with that city attorney, and that is why I'm bringing it forward.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment or have a question? Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you, Chair Osmond. Could the attorney, Joel Fussy, also comment on this one and how it aligns with our current law and state law?
Thank you. Through the chair. I haven't been the attorney assigned on this matter, but from some communications, I do understand that Mr. Jensen provided a privileged communication earlier this morning to the committee members regarding, I think, the earlier version of this ordinance amendment, or this particular provision of this ordinance amendment. And I also understand that some work has been done to attempt to bring that into conformance with some of the issues that he raised in that analysis. And from my understanding, I think there aren't any immediate objections that I'm aware of at this point from my office, again, with the knowledge that we haven't necessarily had a great amount of time to review, go back and forth on these.
All right, thank you so much. On motion number 2 by Chowdhury, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Rainville.
Aye.
Cashman.
Abstain.
Jenkins is absent. Chowdhury.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ellison.
Aye.
Chair Osman.
Aye.
There are 4 ayes and 1 abstention.
That motion carries. All right, and now, Councilmember Allison.
I'm just going to give a word on this. First I want to thank Councilmember Robin Wansley, who's the lead author on this, and I'm co-authoring this as well. This is one of those reminders. Today's been one of those reminders. And since I've been in office, I've authored several tenant protections. I've worked with tenants themselves. I've worked with tenant organizations. I've also supported intergovernmental, efforts to hold bad landlords accountable and expand how we are able to enforce and protect tenants as we conduct ourselves as a city, and have done that work in partnership largely with regulatory services, which I want to remind folks was this happened before my time in office, but was reconfigured and in some ways still a pretty young department, right? But an incredible department, and one that we utilize to make sure that people have their rights and that the code is enforced in all manner of ways across the city. One of those ways has been in protecting tenants. And what I find when it comes to protecting tenants, when it comes to allowing tenants to know what their rights are, is that the opposition is incessant, even when the bar is really low, even when the threshold for compliance is really low. And this today is about compliance. One of our colleagues got so upset talking about compliance that they just left the committee altogether. And I find it so upsetting to be reminded that as a tenant, despite the fact that renters make up a majority of the city, that even the notion that they have that they should have an ability to know what their rights are is just offensive and generates indignation in some folks. And so I think this work is really meaningful. I'm really proud of this work. And I think that some of the amendments that we made here today are to talk specifically about how to eliminate the administrative burden for landlords, of which I don't think there ever really was that deep of a burden. And yet we still made amendments to alleviate some of that burden so that they can deliver and be in compliance with this ordinance a little bit easier. And yet still folks are offended. I don't know at what point we're going to be a city where we can prioritize people who are at the margins, and not every renter is, but many are. I don't know when we're going to be a city that can adequately fund regulatory services to enact and enforce every single regulation that we ask them to. But I hope that we do become that city, because they're a great department. They've been a great partner when it comes to renter protections broadly. They've been a great partner on this. And I hope that my colleagues can recognize that. And instead of fawning over the tears of some of the most privileged people in our city, take a second, take a deep breath, and just say, maybe it's not that bad if renters know what their rights are. So that's all I'm asking. And I appreciate everyone. I hope this passes out of committee unanimously, and I hope that at full council people can see the value in an ordinance like this.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Ellison. Are there any other questions or comments? Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you. I just kind of have overall comment. It would be great to make sure that when we do get these amendments that they have been thoroughly vetted by the attorney, so we're not surprised like this, and also to get those to the committee in a timely fashion. And Councilmember Ellison, I talked to you privately, but I don't think our colleague who left was so much upset by the content of your suggestion rather than for another reason. And again, we can talk privately about that. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and I want to thank the staff and Councilmember Robin Wansley and all the council members who have contributed to this amendment. I think overall goal is to make sure that we are serving our residents the best way we can, and people know their rights. So, with that, I will move to approve the ordinance as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Seeing no further business before us with no objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.